Hello everyone, and welcome back. Now for the episode 158 we are going to discuss about the Ancient One, the main antagonist of the 2021 video game House of Ashes, the third DPA installment. Literally an innocent or semi-innocent and a person they got turned into a literal undead vampire against their own will. The Ancient One, technically speaking, could be considered as the first truly supernatural antagonist within the Dark Pictures anthologies so far. And in my personal opinion, perhaps he's the most tragic out of all of them, given the fact that this guy is pretty much a simple man who got turned into a monster against his own will, and a concept that was already started and popularized by Hannah Washington from Until Dawn. And in this episode, we're going to discuss all that we know about him or them throughout the video game to better understand the Ancient One and how and why he became a vampire. And now, let's begin. Before we analyze the Ancient One, we first need to understand how and why these vampires arrived. Apparently, these vampires are a literal alien species that crash landed on Earth millions of years ago and remain trapped underground under the Middle East. And they were a literal species of spacefaring empire builders who actually loved music as far as we are concerned. But they somehow got a parasite in them, they infected them and turned them into undead creatures. And when they bite somebody, they transmit that parasite within that person, and it kills them and puppeteers their brain. And the whole body pretty much becomes a literal corpse puppeteered by the said parasites. And for eons, they remain dormant underground until then the rise of humanity unfortunately made the return inevitable, as by 2200s BCE there was a conflict between the ancient Akkad and the Goetians, as Akkad was hit by a plague that killed many of his people, and his tyrannical king Naman-Sin has used this plague as an excuse in order to start a war with the Goetians, blaming them for the plague. And here comes our two characters that are destined for the role of the Ancient One. First is Kurum, a literal Goetian warrior that got captured by the Arcadians and was about to be executed, but later became a prisoner. And the other being General Balathu, the infamous general of the Akkad, of the ancient Akkad, who lost his daughter to the plague and Sir Nawan-Sin. And circa and by 2231 BCE, this entire war has completely oscillated or escalated into a full battle outside. And this battle, in tandem with the eclipse and the smell of blood, awakened the aliens. They allowed them to come out of the surface and kill as many as possible, including Amansin, with Balathu and Kurum being the sole survivors within the temple. And they both learned to cooperate and work alongside with each other in order to escape. But unfortunately, they never did, and their story here depends entirely on the player's choice in the prologue, because depending on the choice of the player, Balathu becomes the Ancient One, and Kurun unfortunately becomes food for the aliens. Or reverse, Kurum becomes the Ancient One instead, and Balathu becomes the food. But no, I don't think it necessarily matters at the end which one becomes which, because they are both trapped within their own hell. And for over 4,000 years, both of them will be trapped in this kind of fate underground, while the world above has moved on. But as the millennia passed, they will either go up on the surface, or eventually people will go down into the caves. And circa around 1946 to 1947 CE, there was a British expedition who came into the caves, believing they could find the tomb of Alexander the Great. Unfortunately, they found these aliens, and with the captain of that expedition blown up the caves and its entrance in order to avoid the monsters from coming out. And for nearly 60 years, things pretty much remained like this until 2003, during the beginning of the Iraq War, when the United States was at war with Saddam Hussein's Iraq. And now, throughout this war, five soldiers found their way into the caves. Four American soldiers: Nick, Kira, Eric, and Jason. And one Iraqi soldier, Salim, as all five of them eventually buried the Hackett and learned to work together in order to survive the caves, as well as his vampires and the Ancient One, who hunted down the protagonists to kill them or to infect them, like so many before. Before we continue, we need now to stop and ask ourselves, is the Ancient One evil? Now, this question, however, is quite complex and is not as easy as you might think, because while yes, while in life none of these people that became the Ancient One were innocent, Balatu was a literal evil general who suffered the loss of his daughter and served a fanatical king exterminating innocents. While meanwhile Kurum was, as far as we know, was simply put quite innocent. He was just a man who just tried to survive and was taken hostage by the Goetians and was about to be executed. And honestly, this character, as I said at the beginning, Both of them count as the most tragic villains ever created in this franchise because of the fact that both of them did make peace with each other. Balathu loved his daughter, and her loss ultimately broke him, and even he regretted what he has done after he saw Namansin's corpse, while meanwhile Kurum was pretty much innocent. And I'll say it again, this man did nothing wrong as far as we are concerned. And honestly, when they buried the Hackett and tried to collaborate with each other, none of them were strong enough to truly trust each other in order to actually try to escape. And I don't think it matters exactly which one of them becomes a vampire and which one became food, because at the end of the day, the one literally became a literal undead corpse puppeteer by an alien virus, and the other one is literal food that was hauled into a living hell. And at the end of the day, the answer is ultimately both yes and no. Yes, what he does is evil, but no, because he himself is not evil. He's an undead corpse. And in the end, it entirely depends on the choices of the protagonists. Whenever they become vampires, the Ancient One kills them, or they eventually kill him. So in the end, depending on the ending, who was or who is the Ancient One? He's nothing more but a literal victim of an ancient conflict. They got trapped into his own personal hell. A man that literally became a monster against their will and will continue to haunt the underground for thousands of years. And honestly, a man that could easily be called as one of the most tragic video game villains ever created. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give a like and subscribe, and have a nice day.